Go live. हो गया? हाँ, हो गया. Great. So let's get started, Gejo. It seems there's just the two of us, and fortunately, this time I decided to take the paper, and but I did 2/3 of the paper. Quant and DILR, I have attempted the paper, so I have a reasonably good idea about that section, and I'm sure you have a reasonably good idea of the verbal part. So I think we can start.
Yes, we are good to go.
Yes. So let's go. Yeah. So Gejo, let's just start. Let's get started. The PPT. Can you run the PPT, or should I run it?
I think Neha is running it backstage.
Okay,
so
great.
I don't know.
पहला लाइन पे आ जाते हैं. ठीक है. So what is the status?
So it's like I mean, if we kind of look at the score, it's more or less what we have seen in the recent past, right? So
yeah, somewhere around cat 22, I would say, at the upper end, and at the lower end, something like cat 21.
yeah.
So ठीक है, a mix of the two, but actually I was a little disappointed with the way people attempted DILR, and I'll talk about that later. But overall, it seems to be a decent paper, a mix of 21 and 22. Good.
Correct.
And okay, so let's go further. Okay.
So it's kind of interesting. It's very interesting that VRC and QA seems to have almost near distribution of score, and so this is. I remember this was a story in 2018 also, I believe, back then. I think that VRC and QA had a very equal distribution of score, and individually, therefore, if you look at the section, each of the section individually seems to be fine. I think collectively people did not do well. I think that's what happened. If I kind of look at somewhere like a 99 percentile individual section, if I add all that up, what 68 plus 36,
94.
All right, so the usual stuff.
No, sorry, not 94, 104. Gejo, sorry, my mistake.
It's 104 now. So usually it will be something like. So if usually when even if let's say add up the 97 percentile, that's what 61, 81, 87, right? Okay, so I think about 87, 90. So it seems to be that in general, on the whole of it, I think that the number of students who were able to consistently do well across the three section, I think, would have been an issue. I think that's something that I could see. So yeah. So let's go to the next slide.
Let's go to the verbal section.
All right. So if I look at each of the percentile sort of score is very close to 2023. So even if I look at something like a 99.5, yeah, it's like a one question down. So what that tells me is kind of at the higher percentile, people let's say usually score 48 and 50s. They were not probably able to get the score that you usually get. But I think the distribution is by and large the same. But I was kind of really surprised to see this thing. You said that you have a certain problem with DLR. I have a few problems that I've seen with VRC, which I want to discuss. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is so one thing that you see is if I look at the reading comprehension, none of the passages had all the questions which is equally difficult or equally easy, right?
Yeah.
It had a kind of a fair sort of mix of questions. So what likely would have happened in this case is that, for example, somebody is looking at 3 reading comprehension passage. I will not be surprised if they end up taking out, let's say, something like a 12 marks just from the RC, right? So they're able to get. I don't think that they're able to get something like 20 odd marks. They're able to get about 12 marks. Then it eventually boiled down to the verbal ability. Now, if I look at the verbal ability questions, the 2 paragraph summary question for some reason turned out to be painful. But I think the 20th question is an odd sentence question. 22nd question is a paragraph jumble question. Those are actually easy, right? And the sentence placement question were also possible. I don't know. Those students were able to get something like 12 to 15 in VA. This is something that I've been saying in the last few CDC Pro discussions. That if you're able to get something like 12 to 15 in VA, you tend to see your scores really high. So if students can look at all the higher scores that they scored in the VR section. The correlation would be for the majority. In fact, if not all, you would see that your VA actually contributed significantly. So those of you who are able to, so if I say somebody who's looking at scores like 20, my feeling is that they were not able to extract from the VA itself. I want to actually share one screen. So let me just present the screen and go through the
Yeah.
questions here. I want to show a few things which
And
were,
Gejo, before you go to those specific questions,
yeah,
when I look at this paper, especially from an RC perspective, what this graph is telling me, every passage had a one or two question which you should be leaving, or if you're confused, not be worried about it.
correct.
And every passage had a couple of questions which are eminently doable, and you should be doing them. And and
What is
and and, and, and interestingly, this is exactly what was the case for DILR also. Every
okay?
set of data had at least one question which was not worth attempting. Every set of data had at least two questions which were definitely to be attempted. So I think in both these areas, English, which is especially RC, and when you look at DILR, the challenge was this ability to leave question more than anything else, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you said that, if you actually look at question number 3, that had, for example, something like a 60% accuracy. That
Yeah.
is a question which seems to have the lowest attempt among all the 4 questions.
Absolutely. Because my guess is because people spend so much time in the first two questions that they just skimmed through this question and moved on. Okay.
Yeah.
When
So
it should be exactly the opposite. नहीं समझ आ रहा तो जल्दी से छोड़ देना चाहिए, ज्यादा दिमाग नहीं लगाना होता.
So I'll show you certain interesting thing. I think at the end of the day, one of the things that happens for many of you is that because these are tests which are very close to the cat, there is a certain feeling that whatever is the score that we get in these tests will be the reflection of the score that you're going to get in the cat. Okay, so that is something that is not true, right? Just because you are getting a particular score close to the cat does not necessarily mean that that is going to be the score that you're going to get in the day of the cat. So I think we'll have to keep the perspective in place, which is like we are still trying to learn, right? So the learning need not stop till 24th morning, right? You can still continue to learn. It is very, very important rather than getting frustrated with what you saw in this particular paper. Is there anything that I can pick up as a learning that I can apply in the cat? So whatever is a little bit of learning that you can pick up. So I'm sure that over the period of time, you've got all kind of scores. Like you've got all kind of scores. It's not necessary that your cat would be the latest kind of scores, right? So it is also very possible that somebody would come back and would tell me, "Sir, I used to get in October things were fine. Somewhere in November my scores have been low." So there is sort of no rationale, which means your skill is not going to come down, right? How can a skill come down? I think it's very, very important to keep the analysis, put that in perspective. That's something I want to share. So let me push the screen here. Um, so Neha can, okay, thank you. Okay. So if I quickly sort of go through the passages, I mean, saying these are the kind of passages we have seen enough. The Guardian, I think there is enough passage that we have seen from philosophy passages, journal passages, although the passages were a little dense this time. Uh, what I want to showcase is, so if I start with the first passage, I think sort of the first passage, the attempt of the first passage are kind of low. I think that happens every time we see something like isms. There's a tendency. I've noticed this. Whenever you see some ism, then there is a there is
Reduction
a
of attempt.
it's kind of thing. The problem here was you had the neo-republican view. There was sort of two passages which is painful. So I think that people eventually figured out which one to pick up. Obviously, those of you attempted all the passages, the story is very different. So this particular passage really had a good structure. I mean, this particular passage, if you look at it, it had a structure. It was slightly dense, but it had a structure. This particular passage start by talking about what legal positivism is, where legal validity is determined by social fact. Then he says there are two separate claims: social thesis, separation thesis. Then the passage then discusses what the social thesis is. Then the passage discusses what separation thesis is, separate thesis, and then passage gives a different one other kind of positivism, which is which doesn't take the separation thesis and looks at inclusive legal positivism. Okay, so this sort of was a passage. There were um, I think one of the problem that I believe that would have happened in question number 1 is understanding what this term actually mean. So there is this term that says non-normative. So what does actually normative actually mean? So if you kind of understood what normative actually said, this social thesis or social thesis, or even for the matter legal positivism, is non-normative. So it is not normative. So I think somewhere here it is kind of mentioned. So here, what law is and what law ought to be. There's a normative. When you look at something like normative actually means that this is this is based on certain judgments, the rules, kind of a rules, pre-decided rules or judgment that is saying something that should be done, something that must be done. So those are kind of non-normative. So if you kind of understand this, you would say
But
something.
Jijo,
Uh,
even if you don't understand the meaning of normative or non-normative, normative would be something which conforms to certain norms.
correct, huh?
So that should tell you that certain rules have to be followed, and non-normative is something which is not following certain set of rules.
Yeah. So because this is basically says it's very contextual. So if
Hmm.
it is something that is social, it is contextual. If it is
Contextual.
contextual, it is contextual.
Hmm.
So it says that social thesis, legal positivism is first problem is that people did not understand there is not except. है ना, पहला
Hmm.
तो. Okay, huh?
Hmm.
So there is double negative. So you can say
Hmm.
the question is actually asking what social thesis actually is, right? And
Ah,
this is
you're
saying that
following. Yeah.
it is inherent, constant, everlasting. This cannot be the answer.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
What depends on how people ought to behave. Cannot be the answer. They didn't what should be forbidden. Cannot be the answer. So this is sort of misunderstanding of this. Uh, and this so let's look at 55 percentage of these people went and marked answer choice number three. Uh, is saying that it can be inferred inclusive legal positivist different from early legal positive in that. What is the difference? The entire thing is about whether they are inclusive legal positive, early legal positive. Legal positives clearly says it is based on social facts. So how can they differ on consider law to be fundamentally a social construct?
Hmm.
So this doesn't make sense. Uh, this question was sort of manageable, and I think the issue, one of the problem that I have with this is that this is probably not the first time they would have come up with these words like these. I mean, we have one problem that would have happened is that because we keep skipping skipping this passage on philosophy. If you have seen passage on philosophy, there is these are a few terms that we keep hearing here and there. Okay, keep getting these terms. So, anyways, I think that if there is anything that you could do, and I don't know, last year there was a passage on Stanford and philosophy. I think this was on romantic aesthetics. If you remember, that was a passage that was taken from this particular source. So, if some disturbance. Okay, sorry. So if let's say if I think I mean you did not require any prior knowledge to answer any of the question. So the second passage, which on Shakespeare identities, GP, let me show you something. Okay, in this particular passage.
Hmm.
Okay, so you got that. I don't know what happens when passages on art or literature is given with little bit of description. I don't know. People get lost. So this is so if I just read this sentence. Okay, it says in 2019, Elizabeth Winkler published a provocative essay. Was Shakespeare a woman? वो लड़की था क्या? In it, she examined seeing the hand of Emilia Bassano Lanier, a poet of Italian heritage, born in 1603, in plays attributed to the actor from Stratford upon Avon.
Okay.
First of all, it's very, very clear she's a living being. Okay.
Hmm.
Born in
Ah,
16th century, note that.
right.
I can actually see the hand of her, and he's talking
Hmm.
about is Shakespeare a woman. Then it
Hmm.
goes on to say in plays attribute, okay, within 48 hours of publication, I was besieged by mostly main army of Twitter trolls. She writes the repository of to her detractors. People completely got pissed with this question with this lady. Okay. Now there is this question which is asking, how is Emilia presented in this particular passage? Okay.
Hmm.
Now, option number two is saying that person who is attributed as a character in Shakespeare's play, she cannot be a character
It
because
can be cat. It's still
uh,
living
she's
being.
born in the 16th century. Okay, the
Hmm.
person who also received severe criticism for her work, she did not receive any criticism for her work.
Yeah.
The person who
That
received
that
criticism
other
was
lady did. Ah.
okay.
Hmm.
Person who also hinted that Shakespeare might be a woman. This never hinted that Shakespeare is a woman. I think that you could just eliminate this and go and say the person was possibly the actual author of Shakespearean play. Okay,
Hmm.
so then people made mistake in this question.
Hmm.
Um, so there is this. So, for example, look at this. Okay, it can be inferred from the passage. The author apparently believes that the potential pitfall. So, whenever there's a review in any book, okay, whenever I think that any cat passage that reviewed a particular book, and it's some usually review is let's say positive and negative. If it is overwhelmingly positive, a little bit of negative is there, you can straight away say there'll be negative questions. So, this one says Winkler can be guilty of this herself. Okay, what is of this herself at times, which is um, the difficulty is that many Renaissance texts produced for an age that delighted in puns, anagrams, and allusion can be read to support whatever meaning you wish to project on them. Okay,
Hmm.
so you can project any meaning that you want
Hmm.
onto them, right? That's okay. Now that's what I think. Whatever is answer choice has to reflect this, that you can project any meaning onto the onto
You
onto
can
onto
interpret it the way you want.
the game one. So there is, you look at this answer choices. It says confirmation bias, but I don't know. Even if let's say I don't know what confirmation bias means, right?
Yeah.
Which actually is projecting what you want. There is no
Hmm.
way I have to mark any of these.
Others,
The
yeah, absolutely irrelevant, Jijo.
Yeah. It misinterpreted Hamlet's authorship. Authorship was not misinterpreted. Hamlet's it
Irrelevant.
had so look at this. It had an irrelevant attitude. This came from here. So let me actually go to the passage and show you where it is. It says that whose irreverence is part of its appeal. It is given as positive. I
Hmm.
mean, so the while I was looking at the particular passage and seeing this, seeing at okay, looks tough. So when I saw this passage for the first time, I mean, all these questions were absolutely crackable. Now I need to ask the question here. Obviously, it's a collective story. I'm sure that somebody would have got many marks. The question that I need to ask myself today is that if I'm going to get a passage like this, so if you remember, I think there's a 2018 was cat only. No, I am Calcutta.
Yeah.
Let me look at just give me a second. Ah, folk music cat. Oh, that was a 2019 passage. Okay, there was a passage on cat 2019 on folk music, which was also taken from Guardian. That particular passage, if you actually kind of read the particular passage, I don't know whether anyone had a chance. I think obviously you've seen the particular passage. You would have found the passage very descriptive. Whenever you have something about music, art, and the literature, there's a lot of descriptive stuff that is going to happen. So we need to now you need to ask yourself. We still have time, right? I'm sure that learning can still have. What is it I need to do? How I'm going to read this particular passage next time I see it? If such a passage comes in the cat, how I'm going to read this particular passage? None of these questions. I can go individually with each of these questions, right? But for even this question, the dismissive response to Winkler's work mostly suggests that the professional scholars. What about the professional scholars? The only thing that she has mentioned, skepticism is usually a virtue in the scholarly world, but when it comes to Shakespeare, skepticism is a skin. That's what he says. There can be no reckoning ambiguities, uncertainty in the construction of our past. That is the criticism. They reject attempts to reconsider traditional attributes of Shakespearean play. So if I actually look at this, none of this makes sense. For example, to avoid deeper engagement. So I would um, I would say that what I want to share with you is that it's fine, you got whatever marks that you got, right? So next time when you see, so when you analyze this particular passage, when you read the passage the second time, what I want you to do is, how do I let's say for example, if I have to read this particular, how am I taking these ideas in my head? So whether you want to do mind mapping or you actually do doodling, so what are the ideas that I'm going to keep in my head when I'm reading passages like this? If let's say if you got issues like this, see, all you require to read any article a day. So if you want to read an article, let's say it would take about 5 to 10 minutes. That's it, right? How many 5 to 10 minutes are we wasting every single day? Even I'm sure that I think we could sit in the loo and read articles, 3 4 articles. There is still time to kind of whatever you do, even today, is to get extra marks, right? And if you look at this, if you see that, so if you go back and look at the passages which were on art, let's say passages that was on surrealism or passages which were talking about, I think that there was a lot of passages in the recent mock which were on art and literature. But you look at how did you where you had a similar problem in comprehension. If so, I think that it makes sense to kind of work on it. The third passage, uh, the third passage had a different problem, right? Third passage has about dinosaur feathers, and it has got so lot of these details, right? Thrown about. So in this particular passage, what we just needed to understand is that dinosaur feather, and there is a bird feather. Bird feather contains, at least when you look at the fossils, bird feather contains beta carotene. That's a protein. I don't know, some protein. I don't know, some protein. And dinosaur feather contain alpha carotene. And since these are not the same, the feathers are not the same. Okay, that is something the study of 2019 did. And then there's a study of 2024 study which said, okay, the problem with this was because of fossilization, because due to fossilization, beta carotene in dinosaur changed to alpha carotene. So, in fact, dinosaur is actually the same as beta. Then the passage goes on to say that the 2019 person, I think this lady, Mary said, get lost. Okay. Your study is actually bull crap because while you did this fossilization in your study, you did not put them in a sediment. You did not put the sample in a sediment. Okay. Had you put the sample in the sediment, okay, you would have got this particular study. And then finally one person is saying, why are you guys fighting? We anyway don't know anything. So okay. So this was one of this was a passage, right? I think while reading, so whenever we kind of read this passage on science, we get while we get bogged down with all these sort of data, there is still a story behind it. And if you just got this, okay, if you got this much, you would have got everything because the way in which sort of the options were framed. Um, the options were framed. They're playing around with the beta and alpha carotene. Okay, otherwise this would have at least 82%. This was crackable. And the last passage, neo-republican view. This passage again. So when you start reading this passage feels like this passage is very painful. But this passage also had a very simple concept. It's basically said there is what is domination. For domination, what we need to have is it says power of interference on arbitrary basis. Power of interference and they're arbitrary. Then the passage talks about what does power means, and this is what does arbitrariness mean, right? So even though here people could have got lost, right? So the questions did not get into any depth of it. The question didn't get. There were two questions based on that side of the particular passage. The question did not get sort of in any depth of this. For example, this particular question, valid for all the three accounts. So when you look at this question, this is only for one account. There were three accounts that is given. This was only for one account. This was only for one account. So I think the challenge that happened here would not have been a challenge with respect to options, right? I mean, the options would have been framed in slightly different manner. That I agree, but I think the fundamental challenge that would have happened here is in terms of the challenges that's thrown by the passage, which is not a very simple. I don't know. I'm sure that some of you would have a sort of different challenge. But the only thing that I would say is that it's okay. It's okay if you got, let's say, scores which are low. I mean, it seems to suggest that many of you would have kind of got a low score. It's okay. But the key thing is not to sit and cry, and not to sit and assume that this is how your cat is going to be, but actually sit and do the analysis, and they only do the analysis. We can still improve, right? We can still pick up learning. So this is something, and then we have got VA. So if I look at the VA, I think there was a sort of a error in there was an error in the question that was correct. I think this was almost like here, 50% accuracy. The this was a time where paragraph jumble and odd sentence actually were crackable. Paragraph summary had options which looks ekdam pretty difficult, but still some of the mistakes that we made in paragraph summary, I think, would have been largely because we are not careful in terms of evaluating options. Both the sentence placement question would have been crackable. I think the way in which you could deal with both those sentence placement question is, so both the sentence placement question had this word but. Okay, even this one. Okay, now it's a question of where is the transition happening. So there is this people would have felt that the transition happens here, right? So this is like a 43% when I mark answer choice number 2. Then the immediately next sentence talks about imagine for example. Now, if the next sentence talks about imagine for example, and if this sentence is here, now the example has to be example of this. And very clearly when you see it is not example of that. So anyway, so I think that you can evaluate both could have been cracked. The this I think that this this odd sentence question. I think the only problem with the odd sentence question, it kind of were looking very long sentences. Uh, the lo- looking the looking very long sentences. But let me show you something. Okay, I just want to give you one thing, and people marked only 70% marked it. Let's look at what sentence number one is saying. A Punch cartoon is not considered to be merely a comic or satire or a comment, but a contemporary history use of information. So this cartoon is much more than just comedy. It has got much more stuff. In Pride Punch, the cartoon of the week, so many years has regularly criticized opinion on the week situation event, uh, or truthfully represented the best prevailing feeling of the nation, soundest common sense, and his most deliberate judgment. The humility, albeit humility produced. This cartoon is much more than just comedy. But to record how public record struck us people, impairing people for incident happening is surely not less interesting. This is, I think, these two are connected actually. When you look at sentence number five, a few biographies and studies of cartoons have appeared, and there have been some descriptive histories of the cartoon, but most of these work are concerned with cartoon itself rather than using cartoon material as evidence to answer wider question. They're saying that most of the cartoon is like only humor. This particular sentence has no connection to whatever is happening here. I think the only problem this happened is how do I navigate, for example, sentences which are very large. The next one, this was ekdam straightforward, right? Where 60% cracked it. The both the odd sentence questions, the both the orthogonal questions. There is since then, right? There is but, so there is dates that is given, right? One other thing is that this is like song. The song has taken a life. This is reveals, so which means it is in present tense. This was written, that is in past tense. This is in past, so you could have put three towards the end. And this sentence is telling a mystery. A long verse of one folk song, most famous song, is to be unveiled by the widow. Is a mystery, and the mystery is revealed. So this one also crackable. For this airborne adventure, Taylor used core principle of stop motion. Taylor didn't just sketch the airplane; he built it piece by piece, which is explained here. From body to aircraft to tiny propeller, everything detail was crafted. So 1-3 is a block. From this airborne, they use a core principle of stop motion. He captured sequence photos first. That is stop motion. 2-4 is a block. This has to be cracked. So if I actually look at every single of these questions, I'm just looking at sentence placement till about paragraph jumble. These 6 questions, well, you could have actually got something like 18 marks. It is what was possible. Now, the reason why this is not happening for many of you is because deep down we have forgotten that VA exists. For some of you, you have already decided I'm not going to touch paragraph jumble, I'm not going to touch odd sentence because it is not going to help me. And therefore, what you have already told yourself is that I'm not going to study on this. What if, let's say, in the next 10 days, right? You have got how many? You probably would have got close to about 30 marks. Each of these marks, I'm sure that you have got 8 questions of VA. Why can't I just go to each of these? I'm sure that you would not have, you don't remember what question that you marked. Go through these questions, and why don't we work towards getting this VA in place? There are there are these paragraphs summary question which I do understand every single options looks the same. I've obviously given a detailed uh, understanding of this. Just for example, just to hint something. Okay, this start by saying beauty is a social construct. Explains why it's a social construct, and then it's saying that these relationship are societal forces, and media, marketing, business, government, and these are creating currently what is saying that the beauty in society is embedded in the minds of people by this media, marketing, business, government institution is telling what beauty really is. And it focus on the fact that the media of its 90% is controlled by media conglomerates, predominantly are responsible for creating reinforcing preference biases. And the author specifically picks up media. Right? Look at these answer choices. This says like media and business. This is such as media and government. This is marketing and media. Each of these option pick media with one money thing. This is the only option which actually pinpointed that particular media. Okay, this was the only option that they did. This particular answer choice, I do understand why you probably will pick this, but the whole point of this particular passage was about uh, how. Okay, I'm not going to explain this. I explained this one. The point is that here the VA was. I do understand some of the challenges that you face, but I think that it might be a good idea in terms of working on your VA. We still have time. Even if, let's say, I spend about 7 days. In these 7 days, if I'm spending, I don't know how many hours are you spending in your preparation. All I have to do is solve about 8 VA questions about 10 minutes. Learning from this would be another what, about 10-20 minutes. I could easily look at about couple of VA tests or VAs, or which means about 15 to 20 VA questions on a daily basis. In about 7 days, I'm already hitting about 140, 150 VA questions. I think that if you have time, I can even look at about 300 VA questions. I think that every single day, henceforth, we still have to look at to improve your scores. So the only thing that I want to say at this point in time is that it doesn't seem that this particular graph is reflecting the actual level of difficulty of this particular paper, is what I would say. Right? You may disagree with me on this, but the graph doesn't reflect on this. I'm sure that which means that the good news is that everybody is having had problem. The good news is that if I can pick up learning right from these tests, even now, that and if I can pick up as many learning as possible, I may be in a position which probably will be better equipped to handle challenges like this if it comes in CAT. Right. So that sort of is a thing that I have to share. Yeah, about VRC.
So, okay.
कुछ सवाल ववाल है नहीं है ना?
जीपी सर आप म्यूट क्यों?
Okay, sorry. No, I'm saying let's go to the QA and DILR first, and then we'll pick up question in the end.
GP, I mean, you attempted this DILR, right? So, first paper कैसा लगा और दूसरा, I mean, what kind of sequence did you choose?
Okay, first of all, I don't think paper was difficult, but this was a paper in which you keep leaving 1 or 2 questions every set, you'll be very happy. If you decide that मेरे को हर set complete करना है, then you are going to struggle a bit in this paper. Second thing was, the easiest set was the last set. And if you did not pick up that set, then you have definitely lost the easiest set of the paper, and then you may have struggled. Okay. Thirdly, there were a couple of things which in this paper which were different from the earlier, which are different is that, for example, the Venn diagram, the first set. Lots of data given, but one critical data missing, and there are 2 variables to be looked at. So it was a combination of 2 areas. So ठीक है, वो अगर pick कर लिया तो ठीक है. The sequence which I followed was, I started with that mean median mode wala set, the last set. Let's go to the next slide first. उसमें देख लेते हैं. हाँ. Yeah, this is the set. This is the one. Na? So I started with the last set, question 42-44. Came back and did the first set. Then I took the second set, and then the third set I did 3 questions. 2 questions actually. Third question, कहीं कुछ गलती हो गई थी. In the end, I took a chance based on certain logic. That was the right answer, but unfortunately, time खत्म हो गया था. So the way I have attempted this paper is, okay, another thing that is critical is in each of these sets, set number 4, set number 1, set number 2, I have done only 4 questions. In each of these 3 sets, I have left 1 question. In hindsight, I could have done all 5 questions set number 1, but that's only hindsight. At that point of time, it did not make sense to do it. Hence, I left 1 question each. Because these were questions are not difficult, but they were time-consuming questions. And then, so my attempt was 4 in set number 4, 4 in set number 3, 4 in set number 2, and 2 in set number 3. Okay, so 4, 4, 4, 2 is my attempt in this paper. Okay. But critically, यही सवाल छोड़ना है, and extremely happy, or rather, let me say, unhappy with question 36. Only about 25% people have attempted this question. This was a question whose answer was given in the paper itself. You read the question, read the data, you'll get the answer. I was just waiting for you to pick up that question. So that जुगाड़ वाला सवाल था यहाँ पे. Similarly, if you look at the first set also, there were a couple of जुगाड़ questions for first one also. Last set में ऐसे कोई जुगाड़ की जरूरत नहीं थी, वैसे ही हो जाता है सब कुछ उसमें. Yeah, so that's what I would say. Good paper, provided you are willing to pick the right sets for them.
So I think that generally students seem to have preferred the attempted more of the second and the fourth set. Third तो काफी कम लोगों ने किया है, and first set seems to be the. I guess a lot of people must have tried 3 sets in this.
हाँ बनता था शिवको, and as I said, if I look at this paper as such, इसमें question 29 looks a little time consuming. As I said, later on मैंने फिर से डेटा देखा तो दिख गया ये जल्दी हो जाता, but it is a time consuming question by and large. Okay. Similarly, if you look at the last question 44, the last question of the last set, that again appears to be time consuming. Okay. Similarly, पहले वाले second set में I don't remember which one. Set number 3 was very interesting. Set number 3, if you go to it, it has got 2 components. One, you have to find out the number of matches, etc., and one, you have to place people in the hexagonal tiles. The first 3 questions did not refer to the hexagonal who is going to be placed where. The last 2 questions were worried about in which hexagonal tile who's going to be there. So if you just ignore those 2 questions of the last 2 questions, the first 3 questions can easily be done. So that's the breakup one should have looked at in the paper.
ठीक है. So I think हम लोगों का estimation भी था कि I think third set काफी कम लोग करेंगे. In fact, first set को थोड़ा moderate किया गया. It was a slightly more tougher set than what it is by replacing a couple of questions with a couple of easier questions. Right? So, but we expected most people to do the second and the fourth ones. Right.
सर लेकिन आप एक चीज देखो कि इवन आफ्टर मॉडरेटिंग द फर्स्ट सेट, जो लोग हैं फर्स्ट सेट में कोई भी क्वेश्चन को 40% से ऊपर लोग अटेम्प्ट नहीं किए, और जिसको अटेम्प्ट किए उसको सब गलत कर दिए.
But शशांक को इसीलिए है because that is Venn diagram with 2 variables.
हाँ.
Even though a lot of data is given, एक काम करता हूँ, let me just share my screen.
But it would have also been easy to leave it because इतना कम था, समझ में आता है. I mean, people would have understood कि will I be able to do it or not able to do it.
So मतलब maximum attempt you see that is in the third question, and the accuracy is the lowest.
Yeah, जैसे screen share कैसे करते हैं? Let me just share my entire screen यार, एक मिनट. ठीक है. So I'll quickly run through this page. This one. See, yeah, ये मेरे attempt के सबके वो नौटंकी दिखेगी इसके अंदर. So I'll just use the blue color. Okay. Now the critical thing here was to understand. If you look at this is one variable, and this is the weight is the second variable. Now look at those questions as such. The first 2 questions. What is the strength of students enrolled in at least one of the clubs? Now look at this particular thing. Or you are given A, B, C, A, B, B, C, A, C. The only thing which is missing is A, B, C. Yes. So that is the only thing you need to find out. And look at question number 2. Question number 2 is telling how many students belong to all the clubs. So if this is a definite answer, this should also be a definite answer. Cannot be determined, cannot be the answer. Secondly, again, I'm just looking at this. Again, this I did not do in the paper, but it struck me later on. If you look at A plus B plus C minus AB minus BC minus AC, this comes out to be 70. So 50 plus 40 plus 60 minus 25, that means 70 plus ABC should be my total. So यहाँ पे that means 70 plus ABC can be either 80 or 85 or 90. That means ABC can be either 10 or 15 or 20. That means these 2 are out. One of these is the answer. Check and get the answer. Okay. The question that I left was this one. At that point of time, what I felt was the choices are close and I'll need to do a lot of work. But I'll just go back. Those of you who have attempted this paper, please look at this pie chart again. This Venn diagram again. Look at average for all these people is 35. Average for all these people is 35. What that tells me is What that tells me is that average for this particular group, all of them is 35. And the only variable left for me is only B. So I thought initially when I looked at the question, I need to find this, and everything else also. But the moment I looked at this later on, ये भी 35 है, ये भी 35 है, तो कहानी खत्म हो जाती है. So this I would say was a miss for me. But even then I'm not very unhappy कि हाँ ठीक है एक सवाल और हो सकता था. But this was something which was a doable question. Okay. So इसी तरह से अगर हम चलते हैं आगे, if you look at set number 2. I don't think it should be a big issue as such, but question number 4 is the question we should not have attempted. This is a question which will make you do lots of cases. So which is why to me this question will take time and should be left. To me, the more important question is this set. Now, this is what I wanted to look at. After all, there are tiles and we need to place which person in which tile. And the graph is telling me that P and this person are paired in a single doubles match. Similarly, P also is paired with Y and P is also paired with this. So P has 3 doubles matches. So the number of matches I can always find out in this. Okay? So finding out number of matches is not an issue. What would be a challenge is placing these people into various places, various hexagons. Okay. Now look at the questions. Look at the question. What is the total number of distinct matches played? This is a answer I've marked, but this was after the time was up, so this answer should not be considered at all. Okay, though the answer is correct. Okay, so distinct number of matches. Which of these options represent the set of players who participated in more than 3 doubles matches? Now, if you have read, initially I thought this would not be doable, but please go back. Statement 3. B and N play 4 doubles matches and 2 singles matches each. That means in these questions, number 2, B and N have to be a part of my answer. Hence, choice 4 becomes wrong. Also, if you look at the choices, Q is common. So the only variable is G, J, or V. And if you look at V out here, 1, 2, 3, 4 matches, that's the answer. Okay. Now, these 2 questions, 1 and 3, you could have done by making this table. And here I made a mistake. This and this, what I've written as 3 is actually 4. And which is why I was not getting the right answer here, but I took a chance. What chance did I take? I said this cannot be 54. This can either be 52 or 56. This has to be a double. The number of doubles has to be a multiple of 4. Okay? And I felt that there's a greater chance of missing out on undercounting the doubles because ये copy किए देखने में गलती होने का chance ज़्यादा है. So I said let me take a chance with 56. So 56 by 4. The answer came out to be correct, but as I said, don't count it because I was not able to complete. Now look at question number 4. Among all the doubles teams that were formed among these players, how many teams had at least one player who played? Okay, I will need to possibly look at which person. Similarly, who's paired with B, etc., etc. I'll need to place the people out there. Okay, so which is why I was not keen to do these 2 questions. And last one, I'm sure everyone has got it right. Fairly simple, straightforward data set.
तो कुछ लोग वो भी मिस किया है शायद. If you look at the attempts in the last set, I think that doesn't exceed 50%. No, it's just about 60%.
Because it is the last set now, which is why I have always maintained if you will not go through the entire paper before deciding what to do, the likelihood of missing out on easy sets is very high. Okay, it is very, very high likelihood that you will miss out. Okay, so which is why it is important that you definitely go through the paper first and then decide.
I have a feeling that a lot of people would have spent first 5-6 minutes in trying to do the first set because they said theory हो जाएगा, right?
But theory में 2 variables हैं. हो जाना चाहिए जी. उसमें problem नहीं है. Because if you look at the choices of first 2 questions, you can again pick up from there.
Right.
And
even if you don't look at the first question, second question, once you make that equation, substitute the choices and get the answer.
Right. And one more thing I would like to add in this, for that, using the format of question paper is always very helpful. people don't use question paper format, question paper tab in the actual exam.
Yeah.
They go one by one. So उसमें ना टाइम लग जाता है और बीच में चलते लोगों को प्यार भी हो जाता है. So
जीपी
उसमें
तुम
ना
यूज करते हो क्या क्वेश्चन पेपर फॉर्मेट?
CAT में I only use question paper format for English, which is RC and DILR.
हाँ, क्योंकि मैं
I
बोलता
use
रहता हूँ
only
हर बार.
क्योंकि मुझे यार जब तक चारों सवाल पांचों सवाल एक साथ नहीं दिखेंगे, I'll not be able to use the choices. So for me, choices are extremely important. So I will always use. Similarly in English, I find it easier to read on the question paper format and answer rather than going through the platform and doing next.
करेक्ट. एंड क्वांट कैसा लगा जीपी?
ठीक था यार, 15-16 अटेम्प्ट के पेपर था. I felt about I don't remember 15-16 कितना हुआ अटेम्प्ट. I think 14-15-16 ऐसे ही कुछ हुआ है. But it was again सवाल छोड़े कि नहीं. Are you willing to leave question or not is the issue that the students need to address.
So I actually was a little surprised with the quant scores. Neha, can we move to the next slide?
हाँ कहता हूँ मैं. Yeah.
अच्छा.
Yes, Shiva.
So look at the quant. I mean, I thought scores will be more than 39 for 99.5 percentile. Probably maybe a question on.
It's similar to Shiva last year before last CAT.
हाँ बिल्कुल. Oh, I think 2022.
I think the problem with this paper was that every question was doable. People didn't understand which to leave.
नहीं यार ऐसा नहीं था. मैं तो देख के छोड़ भी दिया था सवाल की, समझ नहीं आया क्या करना है.
वो सर बहुत ही कम थे. ज्यादातर क्वेश्चन होने वाले थे इसमें.
देखो तुम्हारी मैथ अच्छी है, मेरी नहीं है.
नहीं सर, मैं सही बता रहा हूँ. उसमें हार्डली 6-7-8 क्वेश्चन ही थे छोड़ने लायक. 15-16 करने लायक ही थे पेपर में.
हाँ नहीं ठीक है. देखो आउट ऑफ 22 6 questions is almost 1/3 of the paper ना, और 30% of the paper. तो वही तो है. Which is what I said about 15 questions one can attempt. The other thing which I want everyone to remember is in the paper you will make mistakes. Okay, I showed you that I copied that data wrong in the DI set. You will make mistakes. It will happen. Don't look for. But in trying to avoid the mistakes, if you are going to they take a lot of time in reading and solving, then you are going to mess up the paper. So take your chance, keep moving. होता जाएगा कुछ ना कुछ. Even quant में one question, the last question why I was attempting, I think और time pressure खा गया मुझको. Method वगैरह सब ठीक हो गया मुझे. That was my round 2 question. हो गया सब, but I made a mistake. If I remember correctly, 14/36 minus 9/36 I wrote possibly as 11/36, something like that.
So okay. GP, did you get to the second round in this?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I kept 6 questions for round 2, out of which I attempted 2 and तीसरा गलत हो गया. वो हो जाता बट गलत हो गया.
अच्छा ठीक है.
उसके पहले 3-4 सवाल छोड़ भी दिए थे कि मेरी औकात के बाहर है.
इसमें आप देखो पूरा हरा भरा हुआ है. काफी
सारे
यार वो ठीक है यार.
बट वो हरा मत देखो तुम. look at the attempts. You look at the attempts. There is only one question which has gone beyond 50% attempts. Probably about 3 questions.
Different people attempt those questions. Not the same people.
Correct.
एक मिनट में काम करता हूँ. क्वांट का भी पेपर दिखा देता हूँ. शेयर स्क्रीन कर लेता हूँ मैं.
शशांक इसका एक DI सेट बना सकते हैं. ओके एक मिनट. आई होप. हाँ क्वांट का यार ये अच्छा सवाल था. इजी था. हाँ इस क्वेश्चन में आई होप पीपल हैव यूज्ड a+b upon a+b because that saves time. जहां पे the C and D they do the work in 30 and 45 days. That means 18 days. यानी यहाँ पे भी मुझे 9 का मल्टीपल तो चाहिए.
Right.
And then you can check the choice. So this I partly did this formula, then I checked the choice. So semi जुगाड़ कह सकते हो. ये तो समझ ही नहीं आया मुझे क्या करना है. मैंने छोड़ दिया. I do the figure. Okay. This was
actually I'll tell you in the previous question. अगर आप प्रीवियस क्वेश्चन में जाओगे ना तो द साइड्स आर 7, 8 and 13. So this is actually going to be obtuse angle triangle.
ठीक है,
तो अगर आप obtuse angle triangle थोड़ा एक्यूरेटली ड्रॉ करोगे आपको दिख जाएगा कि वो साइड हाफ है.
तुम
नहीं,
जीपी वाला स्टाइल कर रहे हो.
नहीं, मैंने ये किया हुआ है. शशांक, hold on. शशांक, I could make out the answer is either 2 or 3.
अच्छा,
ये तो दिख गया था मुझे, 4 और 6 काट दिया था मैंने. अब 2 है कि 3 है ये नहीं मालूम मुझे.
नहीं,
यहाँ पे choices में मार दिया मुझे.
M is the midpoint ना, M is the midpoint, P is also the midpoint. ये एंगल बाइसेक्टर है ना, सो ये इसका हाफ होगा. नहीं, मेरे ख्याल से आपने गलत ड्रॉ कर दिया है.
नहीं, वो ठीक है, वो दिखता है कि PM जो है ये है ना, PM छोटा सा ही है यार, 4-6 नहीं हो सकता, ये तो दिखता है. ठीक है, but because it was 2 or 3, I did not even bother to redraw the figure because पहले जब सवाल पढ़ा I could not understand the question. So first I was drawing the figure just to understand सवाल क्या है. Then I realized answer choice are very close, छोड़ दो इसको. So I left this one. This was a straightforward question.
नहीं, सर आपने लाइन गलत जगह ड्रॉ की है, इसलिए आपको गलत दिख रहा है.
वो ठीक है, देखो 2 होगा कि 3 होगा, बहुत कम मार्जिन है यार.
नहीं, वो 2-3 वाली बात नहीं है. आपने ये
चलो ठीक है, मैं बना के भेज देखता हूँ.
हाँ, नहीं, मैं आपको उसमें बता रहा हूँ गलती कहाँ है. कि आपकी जो लाइन है ना जो 8 पे ड्रॉ हो रही है, वो 8 पे ड्रॉ नहीं होगी, वो 13 पे ड्रॉ होगी.
हो सकता है, ठीक है. तो एक और गलती आ गई मेरी.
हाँ, तो अगर आप उस पे ड्रॉ कर लेते तो आपको आंसर दिख जाता कि वो 2 ही हो, 3 ही हो सकता, 2 नहीं होगा. तीनों ऑप्शन एलिमिनेटेड है. हाँ,
चलो मैं बाद में करके देखता हूँ इसको. एंड द अदर स्टूडेंट्स कैन डिसाइड करना कैसे था. ये वाला तो ठीक था. इसमें भी ना, once you form the equation, substitute the choices. Don't try to solve an equation. Because in this kind of a question, many students will have a tendency कि x square plus 16 minus 8x equal to 0 को solve करते हैं. मत करो यार, choices डाल के देख लो.
But that is x minus 4 whole square.
जो भी है यार, मेरे को सामने मैं चॉइस डाल के देख के करके खत्म कर दिया.
अच्छा,
ठीक है. एक पेपर में ना दिमाग नहीं लगाता मैं, जो सामने दिखता है वो कर देता हूँ. ये तो मेरे को लगा बहुत केसेस बनेंगे. इवन इफ आई इग्नोर 216, it looked like lots of work. And this is a question which I had kept for round 2. अगर टाइम मिलेगा सोचेंगे, टाइम मिला नहीं. This was, I think this question शिव को काफी लोगों ने किया, नहीं किया ये.
एक सेकंड में बताता हूँ.
I think this question many people would have left. This I used the calculator.
अच्छा. कैलकुलेटर लोग यूज करते हैं कि नहीं मालूम नहीं है.
मैं कर देता हूँ. 850 upon 629 plus 1.35 आ गया roughly. 504 by 777.65. आंसर हो गया मेरा. 2 कॉस्ट प्राइस 2 है, सेलिंग प्राइस 2 है. नो प्रॉफिट नो लॉस. ये क्वेश्चन था ना. दिस इज द मिस्टेक आई हैव कमिटेड. लुक एट दिस. यहाँ कहीं गलती है. हाँ, 14 by 36 minus 5 by 36 I wrote as 11 by 36. By the time I realized ये गलती हुई, टाइम खत्म होने को आ रहा था. But this was a question which I should have got it right. But ठीक है.
वो देखने में खतरनाक लगता है.
देखने में खतरनाक लगता है. शिव को इसमें क्या है? If I just I'm giving the one part of the story because I think there's a question which जिसका solution थोड़ा सा improve हो सकता है. After all, what you have is 1 upon a square plus 1 upon b square is equal to 5 by 36. Similarly, if you look at these three, these are the 3 things which are given to us. Okay, so if I add all 3 of them, so if I add all these 3 equations which are circled here, this will become 2 into 1 upon a square plus 1 upon b square plus 1 upon c square. ये time and work में करते हैं हम. Should be equal to 23, 28 by 36. Or this becomes 14 by 36. So if this is 14 by 36, 1 upon a square plus 1 upon b square is 5 by 36. That means 1 upon c square should be equal to 14 by 36 minus 5 by 36, 9 by 36. Or c square will be equal to 4. Similarly, when you look at this one, you can say 1 upon a square should be equal to 14 by 36, 1 by 36. Or a square equal to 6. Similarly, you can find b square also. तो हमारा काम बहुत कम हो जाएगा. ये टाइम एंड वर्क वाला फंडा अगर लगा लिया किसी ने जल्दी हो जाएगा. बट मैं दिस वाज द लास्ट क्वेश्चन आई वाज अटेम्प्टिंग, गलती हो गई. ठीक है, चलो बाद में कर लेंगे यार, अगले पे चलते हैं. ये तो सीधा, अच्छा ये सीधा सीधा था. इसमें मैंने पहला काम यही किया. क्वेश्चन ने बोला था ना कि रेशियो ऑफ वाटर इन A to B is 5:11. So the ratio of 7:5 and 13:9. I kept this as 5 only. इस 9 को 11 कर दिया. If this 9 becomes 11, this becomes 13 into 11 by 9. Then ratio से आ जाएगा. The gap in this case is 6. The gap required is 54. This was a pure and simple substitution. ये देख के पता चल जाता है x has to be 5 to power some number. It has to be some power of 5. x equal to 5, x को 5 डाल के चेक किया, नहीं है, गलत हो गया. x को 5 स्क्वायर डाला, सही हो गया, आंसर मार्क कर दिया. ये आई थिंक हो गया होगा सबसे.
ये हो जाएगा.
This was a standard question. Nth term and summation of n square plus summation of n. ये क्वेश्चन मैं सॉल्यूशन देख रहा था. People, the solution shift को can be changed. Look at it this way. The normal time that the person takes is 120 minutes. Now the person has taken 118 minutes. So time has become 118 by 120. So speed should have become 120 by 118. Okay. So if this this is 54, this speed will be 118 by 120 into 54. So ये simple ratios का सवाल है ये.
I have solved it completely in the previous question.
ये वाला नहीं, ये रेशियो है ना.
हाँ वो I didn't do it. मैंने दोनों केस में स्पीड निकाल के एवरेज स्पीड का फॉर्मूला लगा दिया. I got the answer, लेकिन I didn't think of this way. Right.
ये तो मैंने छोड़ दिया सीधा ही. मैंने कहा बहुत अच्छा सवाल है, कभी फुर्सत होगी तो सोचेंगे इसके बारे में.
सर ये वाला क्वेश्चन लेकिन एक्चुअली बहुत आसान है.
यार केसेस बनाएंगे ना तो केसेस राउंड 2 आता है मेरा.
केसेस नहीं बनेंगे इसमें सर. इसमें सम ऑफ रूट्स 4 है.
नहीं देखो ये है.
हाँ,
my problem is this. How many? The moment you say how many, I have a problem. ठीक है.
अच्छा ठीक है. So
this one should not be a problem. ये मेरे को सवाल विश्वास नहीं हुआ कि इतनी जल्दी हो गया ये. There is a 30, 60, 90 right triangle. So if you remember your 30, 60, 90, you should be able to get it fast. ये ठीक है. This took a little bit of time, but that's okay. Again,
GPO पीछे वाला ज्योमेट्री वाला प्रॉब्लम. I'm shocked to see that not even 60% people have done it.
अच्छा.
ये है तो बहुत आसान.
No, this is one.
Yes, man.
If this is one,
यार FC is equal to 1, BF का वैल्यू पता कर लो, into 3 कर लो, खत्म स्टोरी.
शिवकुम, if this is x, this will be x root 3, this will be 2x. ये हमने raised to 99 में कितनी बार बात की है. So if this is 1, this will be 1 by root 3. So plus this is 1 by root 3 plus 1. Plus 1 plus 1 by root 3 into 3. तो मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ ना, मेरे को विश्वास नहीं हुआ कि इतना छोटा सा सवाल है ये. हाँ. इसमें थोड़ा टाइम लगा, बट ठीक है. शशांक, दिस इज अनदर क्वेश्चन. सी नंबर ऑफ वैल्यूज. जहां तुम नंबर ऑफ वैल्यूज पूछोगे मैं छोड़ देता हूँ, बाद में सोचता हूँ.
What did I do in this question? Instead of 2025, I have taken 1. Mod of 2x minus 1 is plus mod of 2y minus x is less than equal to 3. 3 केस है बस. मैंने लिया ही नहीं उसको. मुझे लगा कैलकुलेशन बहुत ऑड नंबर माइनस हो रहा है, ऑड ही कर लेंगे.
This was again a standard question. ये भी फिगर बना के समझ नहीं आया क्या होगा तो छोड़ दिया मैंने.
मुझे भी नहीं आया.
This was my round 2 question. So you will see some places में मैं लिखता गया था, ये राउंड 2 में आके करा था ये वाला. ये अप्रोक्सीमेशन का सवाल है. The choices were not close to each other. Okay. So इसमें मेरा शशांक I have a simple approximation.
मैं जब कर रहा था तो मैंने देख के ही छोड़ दिया, इतने गंदे
नहीं,
गंदे
इसमें जो है, see शशांक, look at this way, ये वाला इक्वेशन देखो,
हाँ राइट,
I am saying it is almost the same as 1623 200 is equal to x 3x upon 1.08 square. I am saying after all, average interest is nothing but 16.64%.
राइट.
So I am saying this is, इसको भी 1.08 square कर दिया, इसको भी 1.08 square कर दिया, आंसर आ जाएगा तुम्हारा approximately, because choices pass नहीं है इसलिए हो जाता है ये. If the choices are closed, then you should not do this. Then you should look at the future value method. ये तो स्टैंडर्ड है यार, ये तो जुगाड़ क्वेश्चन है, पैटर्न निकालो, आंसर मार्क करो.
So इसमें I mean deliberately हम 13-14 क्वेश्चंस तो थोड़ा doable वाला रखा था, right? But if you have 13-14 doable, right? I don't know how many people will it be an advantage for people who are very good in math, or will it be a disadvantage?
लेकिन जीबी सर, इसमें मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि इसमें जुगाड़ बहुत ज्यादा क्वेश्चन में नहीं था ना,
लगाए ना,
क्वेश्चन आसान थे.
नहीं देखो, the way I would look at it, मैं बताता हूँ किस किस में मेरे हिसाब से जुगाड़ लगा. Question 66, okay, I'll look at question 66 था, which is your standard pattern वाला सवाल. Question 65 में that installment वाला question, I made that approximation. 63 छोड़ दो. 62 में नहीं चाहिए था जुगाड़, 10 में नहीं चाहिए, 61 में नहीं चाहिए, 60 में नहीं है, 59 में नहीं है,
59 में नहीं है,
58 में 30-60-90 वाला मैंने यूज किया. 30-60-90 राइट ट्रायंगल,
राइट.
57 नहीं, 56 नहीं, 55 में I don't know whether to call it जुगाड़ or not, but ratio of time to ratio of speed 118 120 मिनट,
उसको I would consider as जुगाड़ itself, because I didn't think of that way.
ठीक है,
मैंने सॉल्व कर दिया उसको. हाँ ठीक है.
But वैसे I mean 22 क्वेश्चन में 5-6 क्वेश्चन में जुगाड़ लग गया तो बहुत अच्छी बात है.
Question 52 x equal to 5 to power of under root वाला जो था, वो वाला सवाल, उसमें x को सब्स्टिट्यूट करना शुरू करो, मिल जाता है. So already 4 सवाल तो हो गए हैं, even if I ignore that 55 वाला.
राइट.
ठीक है. Even question 51 I have done a जुगाड़, which is essentially that ratio water का पहले ही मैंने 5:11 कर दिया.
हाँ ठीक है.
50 छोड़ दो. Question 49, that selling price cost price वाला जो था, that question again I used to calculate straight away. ठीक है. And then 47 नहीं, 46 नहीं, 45 में I use the choices after halfway. Okay, so 45 में after halfway, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 6 plus question 45. इतने बहुत है यार, इससे ज्यादा नहीं होगा. If you are able to get जुगाड़ in 5 odd questions, you have done your job, yaar. Because these 5 questions means you will be able to do 2 to 3 extra questions now. Yeah.
Others, if it is working, I don't have to elaborate. So, others का एक Gejo sir, the beast is tired. Yeah, Gejo sir's daily dose of speaking is over.
एक मिनट काम करते हैं, शुरू से क्वेश्चन ले लेते हैं कुछ. This question from Tarush has come a couple of times. Shivku Gejo.
Sir, I used to give mocks at 8:30 slot, but now I got slot 3. Now I feel focus is not at the best at the time. Now, first of all, see, when the time is 9 p.m. here in India, at somewhere in the world it is 6 a.m. Time is a social construct. Okay, so it has got no logic to it, na. So all you had to imagine that one fine day you took a flight, you went to US, jet lag so you'll get adjust to it. I think the first of all, don't keep saying this. 8:30. You used to give mocks at 8:30 slot. It is okay. right? You can start taking the mock, even if let's say you don't take the mock at so slot 3 slot. I'm sure that just because matlab, it is evening, I don't think that your mind stops working. So I don't think that you don't have to unless and until you have got issue with respect to waking early and stuff. Even in that particular case, all I will say is that just adjust yourself. You probably will have issue. I don't think you'll have any issue. Just start taking
कोई
the
नहीं
test.
है ये. Arush is only creating excuse for his future failures. और
Correct.
कुछ नहीं दिखता मुझे. Arush, you'll do well. Just stop worrying about this item.
Correct.
10 दिन है, 10 दिन में जो भी है, do all studies in that time slot.
All mocks, all papers that you want to take, section test, take them in the evening. Ajit was asking about DILR. Ajit, ask yourself, did you attend the last set or not? If you did not attend the last set of DILR, then nothing can be done. The solution is there in front of you. We have just discussed broadly the paper.
And I think अजीत ने इतना खराब भी नहीं किया है जितना दुखी हो रहा है.
नहीं, DILR में बोलूंगा 2 सेट होने चाहिए थे. 7-8 सवाल हो सकते थे, if not 10, at least 7-8 questions one should have done.
Somebody
Any
asked, what
question
should we
you
do for
have?
the next 10 days? Beginning में एक question आया था. अगला 10 दिन क्या करना चाहिए?
The way I look at it, right? I mean, how much of a day that we have, how much of a minute that we have, I need to ensure that I'll start getting more marks. I still can work on if that means that I have to revise certain concept that I tend to forget. If it means that I need to work on, for example, there are few concepts that I believe that if I crack it, it still improve my score. If I believe that there are certain issues that I'm having in, let's say, paragraph jumble, if I work on that, I would recommend like how that every single the time that is spent your preparation, it has to be with this attitude that I'm going to do something to ensure that either I maintain my marks or improve my marks. That's what I would say.
कुशल को क्या बोलोगे शिवकू? फ्रेंडली उसका क्या कहते हैं, वर्बल खराब हो गया, क्वांट DILR ठीक हो गया.
अब जो अभी इससे पहले जो जीजो ने बोला बस फॉलो करो.
See, this is very, let me tell you something. This would have happened throughout your preparation. It's just that because the CAT is on 24th November, suddenly you're noticing these things and worrying about it. Right. For example, your skill in VRC would not have gone down. Okay. I think you would say this. Second of all, when I'm getting my VRC bad and QA DLR good. I mean, the good news is that you were good in VRC. You are still good in VRC. Now we became good in QA DLR on the day of the CAT. Just ensure that. See, you have to understand something. CAT, irrespective of how many mocks that you have taken, eventually what matters is 24th November. Right. On that particular day, you just recollect. I think the problem that happens, the only thing that we remember is bad test. Any good test that we have, we blame at the test was easy. We are not willing to accept that sort of we are good. So the thing that you got to do is that yes, fair enough. There are pick up whatever learning that you want to pick up. Look at why your VRC score went low, right? Give this stuff, but remember what made you get the VRC, which is good, which I'm assuming is going to be your VA. Your VA questions did well, and then on the day of the CAT, just keep looking at the question on the screen and make decision on the question on the screen and nothing else. So long as you make sensible decision on the question that you keep seeing on the screen, CAT after all is a integral of sum of questions. No, CAT is just a set list of questions. So individually, whatever you see on screen, you make good decision and keep solving. I'm sure that you'll be okay.
And I think Kushal, the most important thing that Shivku and Gejo have said is you're good in all 3 sections. Your data is telling you are good in all 3 sections. Now the only thing which is left is the temperament part. Are you putting that pressure on verbal? Ki verbal, I have to make sure I do very well in verbal. Relieve yourself of that pressure. Just make sure, as Gejo said, question aaya. See, when you are under pressure, you need to go back to basics rather than trying too hard. If you try too hard, you are going to mess up the paper. Just go back to the basics, and that is what Gejo said. Read the question, understand the question, समझ आ गया, answer mark करो, and keep moving on. नहीं समझ आए छोड़ दो और आगे चलते जाओ.
And Gejo sir, I want to ask one thing. I got one query related to verbal. One of the student has called me and asked Sir, it doesn't make a difference how many questions I do in the paper. My accuracy is always 50%. If I attempt 10 questions, I get 5 right. If I attempt
So attempt
24,
all 24.
तो
so
सब कुछ
Yeah.
करो.
So if
she's
you attend,
attempting 24 and she's getting 12 right. So either 12 or 13. She's consistent with that.
ठीक है.
Now,
देखो,
see,
end of the day, she will be above 30 every time.
kind of, yes.
if you see 50% accuracy means 50% accuracy mean whatever is your attempt, that is your score. 75% accuracy mean whatever you attempt twice is your score. 100% accuracy mean whatever you attempt thrice is your score. Yeah, na? Okay, it's easy to look at 50, 75 and 100, assuming that every question has got -1 negative marking. So if she's attempting 24 questions with 50% accuracy, the first question to ask is why is she getting every second question wrong? Ye to pehla hai na? Right. So if she's able to get attempt all the 24 questions and get 24 marks, I think that is 90%, 95%. But I think that will not be such a linear thing, right? What is she is, so what my gut feeling is that, so she started attempting, let's say 12 20 questions, she got 51 accuracy, then she decided, let me reduce the number of questions and think more. Okay, let me do over analysis.
Sir, I have suggested her that she is saying that she's stuck with, she has tried reducing the attempts.
See,
So she has gone down to 12 attempts. Now,
Madhuri
out of
No,
the
she should not. Nahi, Shashank, she should not reduce her attempts. See the issue which I'm referring to is, in trying to increase her accuracy, she's going to mess up the paper completely. And the second thing is, by spending more time on the question, she's still not getting the right answers.
See, for example, if I have to watch a movie, right, for me to understand the movie, will I stop and rewind every dialogue? वो कर रही है ना वो basically assumption क्या है, public assumption means there is some relation between speed and accuracy.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, speed is a weird statement. I always have to solve question on the pace of my comprehension, right? At my pace, right? Pace of my understanding, my comfort level, right? The second is that if I'm getting confused between an option, matlab it's doomed, na? I read the passage. Now I'm confused. I'm not supposed to get confused, but I got confused, right? At that point in time, the choice is either take a bet or move on to the next question. So so what is now happening is that she's spending extra time on it, still getting the same 50%. I think the problem is not getting addressed. So the way in which uh, I would recommend what she has to do is keep reading at the pace of comprehension. If I get stuck, like GP said, आगे बढ़ो ना. We have got 24 questions तो है. जबरदस्ती कहाँ है? That I have to answer the question. Yeah. What else?
Continuing with Kushal. Kushal, Venn diagram वाले में एक ही सेट बनता है यार. The second question is clearly telling you only one case is possible, because the only data piece which is missing is the number of people who are in all three. ABC का common वाला ही missing है. And question number 2, there's no choice called none of these or cannot be determined.
And in CAT, if we get an option as cannot be determined, I think that is never right. We have options. So cannot be determined.
सही आदमी, if you had to draw that hexagonal diagram, then you have messed the paper. You should not be drawing, because अगर वो draw करोगे तो paper में खाली वही करोगे. And then उसके बाद you have to color them also, na? Which color? So don't look at drawing. Look at doing. Maybe the way out was the way I have made the table. Okay. Since I was not worried about which hexagon belongs to which person, I did not write that. But that's another thing you could have looked at if you have to draw. But to me, third set was not worth attempting in Toto.
So what advice I'll give you, Sahi, is that one of the skill that is needed is how do I represent the data on the piece of paper. What you're thinking is that I will represent exact same way how is it given in the screen, right? When that is what is, I think that all that data is representing something. Data is basically talking about connection between things, right? Connection between stuff. There are connections. You can represent the connection any shape or manner. It is not necessary that it has to be drawn in the same diagram. So the key thing is this whole idea about layouting, right? So what I would recommend, Sahi, is that for the same set now, you sit now and think about 3 different ways of representing it. Okay, and look at different ways in which you can represent data, that particular data, whether it's way of table or whatever the stuff, and hopefully I think that will give you a few ideas. If let's say something, I'm sure that exact same question may not come, but I think that when you face with similar challenge, you will be able to visualize and you put layout on the on.
Yeah, Sarika, how to choose the right set in LR? Sarika, please go through the DILR overview of the mocks that I have given. I've done it for maybe about, except for 3 papers, I've done for all. There, the first thing is the only thing I've actually talked about is how to choose the data set. And similarly, if you look at this attempt of mine in this paper, that's the first thing I've done. And when you're choosing the set, please don't rush through it. Be willing to spend 5-6 minutes, even 8 to 10 minutes is fine with me. But in that 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, you should be able to at least identify which one is the easiest set for you to attempt. Okay? So please go through those DILR overviews. It should help you.
First of all, I don't know what do you mean correct set and what is the wrong set. Now, the fact that you chose a set means that you had a certain idea in terms of why you chose that particular set. You felt that you could solve the set, right? And then what you realize is that when you came back home, oh shit, I missed a particular set. So the answer to your question is right there with you, right? All you got to do is reflect back and look at the decision that you made, and how I can avoid such a decision. So at the end of the day, you got. I think that what is likely. I think what GP is telling is says that don't go with looks. A lot of time we look at the set and decide. We just run through the set. We skim through the set. So the only way to decide is read the set, look at the questions, make sense of what the set is telling you. If it gives you some direction, okay, and then make a judgment in terms of what the set is asking you to do. Okay, yeah.
Is it advisable to take a mock every day?
I won't suggest that.
I'm very clear about this. Mock should be taken maybe once in 3 days.
Yes.
2 mocks a week is good enough.
About what I would recommend is that you should do every single day the mock worth of questions. 4 RC karo, B is B is quant karo, the 4 set of DLR rows karo. If you have time, right? I think that such number of art VARC karo. You have to prepare on this, no? So so
Here's your question for you.
You sir, I'm scoring very low in VRC suddenly. Earlier I used to get 28 to 32. Earlier I used to get 20 to 32 in marks. Please help. What should be done in the next 10 days? Okay. Right.
Couple of other students have also asked the same question, so I thought it should be worth picking it up.
Let me tell you something. Okay, is that my feeling? If when you got this 28 32, your VA score will be about 12, 14. Just be RC ka story will be about 12. I think the RC would be the case. So this is what you need to understand. Number one, right? Let me give you some advice in terms of what you can do. First of all, your skill has not gone down. Skill cannot go down. How will your skill go down? Okay, something is happening. What I will recommend is that you do AAA, right? Attempt, analyze. So this is what you do. You take, let's say, 4 RC or whatever. That's the number of questions. You do the first attempt without fear. First attempt, imagining how you want to be on the day of the cat, right? You'll read the passage at your pace. You'll make decisions. Attempt like that. Attempt without caring the outcome or the marks, but focusing on the process, right? So that is important. And then you do one more second attempt wherein you go through and redo in your time and then do the analysis. The reason why I'm saying this is because now you are taking all these marks with a lot of fear, that you're taking the burden of the previous mock without realizing that every single test is a new test, and the cat is going to be that new test. You can get a score which is like say 32 and 36. What you have to do is that ensure that you are preparing for a situation where you are not bogged down by these external irrational fears that you have. So do this exercise. No, so AAA. Take a few set of questions, attempt like you will attempt in actual cat, attempt without any fear. Doesn't matter. Let's say if your score is low, you tell yourself, if I don't join IIM, it is IIM's loss. ऐसा attitude में लिखना है वो paper, and then I think that should give you back the confidence. What I would like.
Looking at any other question out here. Gejo, you have taken care of quite a lot of VRC के questions काफी थे. They were similar. I think all of them have been taken care of. चलो एक और सवाल.
My slot is at 4:30, so my question is on D-Day, should I study something in the morning or should I go straight to the center without studying anything in the morning? Acha, I think what you should do is what should make sense to you. Like, okay, so there are on the day of the cat, everybody behaves very differently, na? So there is nothing. The way in which I will look at it, I will study till the very last moment to get extra 3 marks. That is what I would do. That's how you could do something else. You could chillax. I think a lot of people will say that don't do anything.
Ask yourself, school, college exam, were you one of those people who would study till the last minute, or would you be one of those जो हो गया यार चलते हैं? That tells you what you should do today on the day of cat also.
I tell people that don't study in last 1 or 2 days. कि इतना जितना पढ़ना है उतना तो पढ़ लिए, अब क्या 2 दिन में क्या उखाड़ लोगे? वैसे भी बोर्ड का पेपर नहीं है.
मैं तो बोल रहा till so this I think that in these kind of questions is get very different sort of answer, because I will say study till death. Okay. I need 3 more marks. Okay. I will fight till the very end. This is what I would say.
So it's an individual choice, the kind of person you are.
Yeah,
that's the way I would leave it. Okay.
तो उसमें ये है कि मुझे लगता है कि कुछ रिपीट तो आना नहीं है. So basic concept में थ्योरी
तो शशांक it is more of मेरी संतुष्टि है इसमें. I feel a little more comfortable and confident, so that's why. That's all.
लेकिन लास्ट टाइम पे कुछ नया मत पढ़ो, रिवाइज कर रहे हो, इट्स फाइन. क्योंकि आपने लास्ट में कुछ अचानक जोश में आके 5 क्वेश्चन कर लिए, 5 में 4 नहीं हुए, तो पेपर टाइम वैसे ही आप डिमोटिवेट होके जा रहे हो कि यार अभी हमको कुछ नहीं आता. 1 घंटे पहले आपकी हालत टाइट हो गई. वो नहीं करना है.
तो नहीं, I'm saying that irrespective whatever happens, demotivation is not a choice. Even if I'm going to get -2, demotivation is not a choice. If let's say if I get very less score, I will tell myself, well, इसके नीचे तो जाएगा नहीं ना. I have hit the worst. I think that there's no choice. मतलब उसमें जो choice. Sorry, GP आपका एक सवाल.
तो मैं कहा इसको ले लेते हैं. Sarika, don't worry if you're not getting round 2, because the issue is you're not able to read the 66th question. That means somewhere along the way you are picking up questions which are actually round 2 questions, which is why you're not able to read the 66th question. To me, round 2 is not important. To me, what is important is have I looked at each and every question and attempted the easier ones? Because you're so my suggestion to you is look at your last 3 mocks, go through the question and look at the time analysis. How much time did you spend in each of the questions? That will tell you which are the question types which you are spending extra time on, and those are the ones you should not be doing. A little while ago, शशांक कहता है ये सवाल बहुत आसान है, कर लेना चाहिए. I said मेरे को नहीं करना है. क्यों? Because I know that जहाँ पे questions आते हैं, how many solutions are there? I take a lot of time. That is easy for Shashank. Shashank should do it. That's a round 1 question for Shashank. That's a difficult question for me. That's a round 2 question for me. So you need to identify which are those questions which you should ideally be attempting in round 2, but you try to attempt in round 1, and hence you end up wasting a lot of time. So that exercise, Sarika, you need to do.
So what is easy for me, even in LR, what is easy for me might not be easy for others. ये तो है, QA में भी वही होगा. So if you see that TSD question, GP sir has done it in less than a minute. I have taken a lot of time. I think I took somewhere around 2.5 minutes to solve that question. तो अब वो है कि वो जो चीज क्लिक कर गई वो कर गई.
Rohit Bantham, just drop a mail to me with all the details.
And one more thing, I think at the last point, one thing we don't need is extreme anxiety. जो लोग अपना एक ही मैसेज कॉपी पेस्ट कर रहे हैं लगातार, सो जो एंजाइटी यहाँ पे दिख रही है वही एग्जाम में भी दिखेगी. सो एंजाइटी जो होगी दैट इज गोइंग टू प्ले अ ह्यूज रोल इन योर परफॉर्मेंस.
ये देखो एक और एग्जांपल एंजाइटी का. And Shashank, you can give an answer to Shristi also.
बेटा just before cat बहुत लोगों का गिर जाता है, ठीक है. So if you have been consistently performing 95 plus in last 7-8 mocks, in one mock your score dropped, consider it an outlier. Don't worry too much about it. ठीक है. So basically sometimes you need to understand कि आप देखो कई बार आप अच्छा परफॉर्म कर रहे हो, there might be a bad day, don't worry about it. So एक दो स्कोर खराब आएंगे, उसको लेके स्ट्रेस नहीं लेना है बिल्कुल. जो हो गया, एक आध मॉक को लेके छोड़ देना. But if it is happening, हाँ sir.
You should ensure that cat is not a bad day. That's all.
Cat shouldn't be the bad. That's it.
So for cat not to be a bad day, all you have to do is keep your cool, right? You have.
Yes.
I think I'm again saying that. See, what is happening at this point in time is that we are making absolutely illogical, irrational statements. My percentile drop to 91 means what? What is the inference that you're drawing? That suddenly your skills drop to 91. There was a reduction in your skills, that people suddenly out of the blue, some 10-15 students' skills improved significantly. It is just something that happened in one particular test, right? Now your worry is that will that happen in CAT? It is possible. I'm thinking, but who knows? Anything is possible in the CAT. But I have all these mocks that I've taken is to prepare myself for the exams. Through any of these mocks, nobody is going to get any admission to any of the schools, right? You have done this mock to prepare yourself. You have to go back. I think that what it should do now, put the Excel sheet. Okay, put your score in descending order, delete all the 10 scores, keep watching those scores the next every single day. That you score, that you got the best scores. I mean, then do whatever you want. And do whatever you want, because you have the skill to do well on the day of the CAT. You have to go there and execute. That's all.
Right. आखिरी दिन ही इम्पोर्टेंट है. हो सकता है पूरा साल आपका खराब रहा हो, आखिरी दिन अच्छा चला गया. So if you are doing great on 24th of November, you are doing great. साल भर कैसा भी गया उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. हो सकता है कि आपका स्कोर consistently 30 आया हो and your percentile would have been 45. Don't worry much about it. If in the last day you are scoring, let's say a score of 100 marks, then you have done great. And for that, I have always told all my students that a genius with a lot of stress is going to score less than the average guy with very calm mind. तो अगर आपके अंदर कामनेस है तो आप अच्छा करेंगे, ये बात ध्यान रखनी है बस. And I have seen this happening to a lot of people in the previous years as well. तो केवल आना जरूरी नहीं है, calmness is also important. So be calm.
नहीं, इसमें आने की बात ही नहीं है. It's a paper in which 50% is a terrific score. So knowledge वाला paper है ही नहीं. There's a temperament issue. You need a Mahendra Singh Dhoni for this paper. That's an extreme example. But you need to relax. You need to understand कि सब कुछ मेरे कहने पे नहीं होगा. There'll be questions I will leave. Don't make any question to be a do or die situation for you. नहीं समझा, छोड़ दो, बेधड़क होके करो. And remember, you have done a decent preparation. You will do well if you are able to be calm and composed in the paper. And Tanmay, as far as you're concerned, last 10 days, I would say keep taking those old CAT papers and the mocks and keep revising them. That's essentially what you should be looking at doing. Okay. Any other question you can pick up? I can't pick up any other question, which is we need to.
Yeah, we can. 9:30 we can wrap up.
Chalo, okay.
Now all. Chalo, see you.
Chalo then. Good night, guys. All the best.
Okay, sir.